Hello and welcome to Counterspells and Cocktails, our little Magic the Gathering podcast here on the CheckForTraps YouTube channel. Thank you very much for joining us. This is our second episode and we are a lot more professional this time around. We're really not. This is just us hanging out, talking shit about Magic and just, yeah, shooting the shit and having some fun and drinking some interesting drinks thanks to Hailey. So, yeah. So how's everyone doing?
I'm doing great.
We're good.
Feeling good. Feeling the potency of this drink.
Yeah.
Love it.
Mine is definitely not the same color because I did not have the same ingredients. So this is the first sip as well because I haven't tried this. Oh god. Oh, that's strong.
I love the ASMR as well.
Sorry.
No, it was perfect.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's tasty. It's definitely not what we were meant to be making, but we'll come to that later. I have two little things I want to kind of kick off with before we get going. First one is a shout out to our we have a channel sponsor, so I want to shout out our sponsor Voidborn. A very good friend Callum has a store, so go to www.voidborn.co.uk for some absolutely amazing tokens, custom tokens, proxies, playmats, t-shirts, tons of really cool amazing things that they've been doing over at Voidborn. Please go check them out, go buy them, they're amazing. Information in the description, images on screen now. I've got to edit this, so I've got to do all that stuff, but absolutely amazing stuff. They have a new drop coming in about a week, I think 16th of Feb, nice. Season 4, so amazing stuff, and a really cool EDH artifacts pack that I had a hand in assisting with curating some of the items for that Callum then designed and drew and made. So yeah, go check it out. Yes, announcement number one. Second one is just for anyone who's into like ambient music when they're gaming and like weird kind of dark drones in the background, check out Cave Walker. That's just a shout out to a friend's band. Go check them out. Sam Rickett is the genius behind Cave Walker. They're like weird eerie drones. Go for it. That's it. That's my little announcement segment. Again, we're professional now, so we do these things. But yeah,
if we say that we're gonna have something appear on the screen, does that just make more work for you?
Yeah, yeah, it does.
Oh well, what did you know? Here's a no.
So next week, next episode. Unfortunately, Hailey can't make it.
She's not here right now.
Fired immediately.
Yeah. But yes. So we are more professional. We have some topics we want to discuss today. Some really kind of cutting edge, big news topics in the Magic the Gathering world. And those are playing jank decks and how many lands is not enough lands.
Hot topic issues here.
Yes. And why is Hailey the way?
People need to know.
Yeah, a lot of conflicting opinions, I think.
So
opportunity for conversation.
So before we jump into talking about lands, because yes, that is the biggest controversial subject in the world, jank decks. I want to know about Dan's jank decks because Dan's been playing Magic longer than me and Hailey, so I imagine Dan's built some janky things in his time. So tell me all. I want to know.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think of I sort of consider all my decks to be a little janky because none of them are like particularly streamlined. Although I was thinking today and I was looking at some of my lists and none of them are really quite as janky as they used to be, or maybe as I would like them to be spiritually, just because new cards come out, I've improved my decks. If you could have seen my deck list like 10 years ago, those would be like true jank. But yeah, I don't know. The thing that I think about jank decks is we've talked about this before already, but I'm not super competitive, so I just want to have fun. So I have a lot of pet cards. My pet cards go in a lot of my decks. that usually makes things janky because pet cards are pet cards because they're not good. It's kind of prerequisite, I think. But yeah, other like janky things, I would say my commander decks now, I focus on like typo strategies more than anything. So those, like, I feel like just by nature are not super janky unless you like go out of your way to put like the less synergistic cards in, which sometimes I do. But on like the more janky spectrum, the decks I used to make, especially when I first started playing, were crazy janky. Like, I'm just thinking about, like, I talked last time about my Nightmare deck, and I would just like put in anything that I thought was interesting. And then I discovered like combos and synergy. And so like I would build entire decks around like a 4-card combo that didn't actually win the game, but like did something funny. So the spirit of jank is strong within me. But the cards just keep getting better. So my jank decks get better just without me doing much about them.
Yeah, I've definitely built in the plethora of decks I have built. I've definitely built some that like I had a cool or what I thought was a cool idea. And like I'm gonna build this deck around this theme, and it's just gonna be all Phyrexian, but like because I'm really into Phyrexia and the whole story behind it, so I'm gonna build a Phyrexian deck, and it's gonna be mono black, but all the cards are gonna be from like Nemesis, Urza's block. All back then, if it's black and it says Phyrexia or Phyrexian in it, I'm gonna put it into this deck, and it's gonna be cool.
It's in.
And then I tried to run it, and I was like, why is there so much text on this card yet it does nothing? It's like, I don't know what the card does. I'm going to play it and hope for the best, and then realize, okay, that stops me from doing anything else. That's yeah. But the theme was there, the idea was there, but the deck did not work. It also had like 28 lands in it, but that's another conversation we're going to have shortly.
So the perfect map. Yeah, but I guess like, is there a fine balance between a jank deck? I mean, because a jank deck could be good if you're like messing up things for other people. Like in your situation, yeah, you have a jank card and you're like, oh, I kind of shot myself in the foot on that. A jank deck can be fun if it's just like pure chaos for everyone else, and you're just kind of like, I did a bunch of things. It doesn't benefit me, but it definitely messed you up. Proceed. Clean up after me.
Exactly. Yeah. I definitely feel that. Like my Dino deck is a bit like that. Like I went for a Dino tribal deck, and like the commanders, Zakama, Primal Calamity. It's got all the other, well, not all, some of the other big dinos are there. But then I was like, I don't play red, but this deck has red in it. So what weird red cards can I put in there? So I've like a friend gifted me a load of old cards, and one of them was Bedlam. So I put Bedlam in it because nothing can block. So it's like that's clearly like, for a guy who's playing a deck with big creatures, Bedlam is great because all my creatures are going to hit. But then everyone hits me as well. And it's like, oh no. No. I have no blockers now because I've hit with everything because that's what dinos do.
Do you think there's a color or color combination, but I'd say at least like a wedge, like that is more conducive, like, oh, this has so much jank potential or possibility?
Ooh, I don't know.
I mean, I would say like spiritually it's definitely is it. Like red and blue is like the way that they designed the flavor for the guild. It's just like, you know, like what's the dinosaur guy in the new set? His name is like Xylox or something. He's like a mad scientist dinosaur. Like that's the vibe of a lot of those cards.
Okay.
And like, you know, it runs like the whole spectrum. Like it can be super competitive, or you can do like, you can cast like 40 spells and do nothing. But then it's like both of those are great somehow.
Nice.
So that would be, it would definitely be my vote, because it's like spiritually part of the flavor.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see that. I can also see Rakdos.
I was thinking this same.
Just because, like, even just looking at Rakdos himself, I have one. I think it's Rakdos the Defiler, and I tried to build a deck around that. And I was like, I'm going to put these really cool cards, put this in. And I read the command, and it's like, yeah, if I don't have any demons, it destroys everything I have. I'm like,
yeah.
I look back at what I put in.
It's like, hold on a minute. Take that out. We'll take that out. That's not going to work. It's like, let's try it anyway and see what happens. And it's like, boom, commander out. Cool. Just board wipes myself. Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think all of my decks are pretty janky. Oh, sorry, all of my decks are pretty janky, but I think my Prosper one is janky with actual like intent to be janky. But I mostly I think the main common denominator is like red. Red is jank.
Yeah, a little crazy. Although I will say I do have, and this is probably just me, I don't think this is the color pair necessarily, but I have a black and white deck that is pretty janky. And it's pretty janky because it's like a commander version of like a really bad 60 card deck I made a long time ago that hinged on a combination of two cards. One is called Transcendence. It's like a 6-mana enchantment. It says you don't lose the game for having 0 life, but then you gain life instead of losing life. I forget exactly how it's worded. And then I would play like forget what the black card is called. I can only think of Sulfuric Vortex, that's the red one. But it's a black card that says players can't gain life. So I would just play these two enchantments so I can't lose life and I can't gain life. And then just be like, all right, I did it. And then I don't win, obviously, because someone has removal every time.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was so funny to me to be like, play those two cards and then just like put my hand down and be like,
yeah,
here we are.
Yeah.
So now I have like a commander version of that, which is a little more nuanced. I pay a lot of life to do a lot of things, but I still have some of those dumb cards in there. Like there's another white enchantment called Near Death Experience. It says if on your upkeep you have 1 life, you win the game. So it's like one of my life goals to win on a Near Death Experience trigger. I haven't quite made it yet, but that deck's pretty janky. And yeah, I feel like it's janky because the stuff that I'm doing doesn't frequently win, and maybe that's why it's janky instead of like competitive. I just like it's just dumb, but it's so fun.
Nice. Yeah, I like weird cards like that are like, if you have this very specific finite condition, you win, but if you don't, you just you have nothing. It's like the new one in Lost Caverns of Ixalan, is it the Millennium Calendar or Millennium Clock or something like that? You need like 100 counters on it to win the game.
1,000 to win the game. Yeah.
Unless you're gonna run some.
I looked at it and said, could it be?
Doesn't it like deal damage too? I feel like it shoots a laser beam or something.
I don't know. I pulled a copy of it. I have it.
Somewhere. I have it somewhere. Yeah. But I was like, I run so many counter games or counter decks. Like, it's made for me. And then I was like, no.
Like, easy.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Just build a deck around it where every single card has proliferate, and you'll be fine. Like, one up. Clearly by like turn 7 or 8, you'll get there.
Yeah, no one will catch on to me by then.
No, it'll be fine.
Just have all defender and walls.
Yeah.
And then proliferate have Yawgmoth as your commander who proliferates and just like or Thrumming Bird and just keep playing it.
It's like a perfect situation for some of the combo locks I was talking about, like the Transcendence one, or like a more popular actual successful one is like Solemnity and 9 lives. 9 lives makes you like not lose life, it removes counters from it, and then Solemnity like says counters can't come off things or counters can't go on things, whichever way it goes. But like, put those down and then just every turn you activate your Millennium Calendar. It does 1,000 counters on it.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone.
Or you get there's some, I forget which one it is. I watched on a game recently, where you basically can give yourself infinite turns. You just do that with Millennium Calendar, and you'd be like, you know what? I know we can just be like, it's done. But let's just play this out. So my turn. Okay, we'll go back on my turn. Easy.
Oh, any responses? Me? No, I don't have any to myself. I will continue.
I do, yeah. That's like, that to me is jank though. In like a perfect nutshell, is like you go far enough to play like an infinite turns combo, but then your win condition is the Millennium Calendar. It's like
it seems very Star. It feels very Star Wars like. Yeah, you need to shoot the tiniest little hole to destroy the Death Star, but if you do it, you are a champion for life. You're a legend. You're a hero. No one will forget that game. Remember that one time this crazy son of a bitch sat down at the table and he pulled off a miracle. You get a plaque. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now we need.
Have you ever? Yeah, it's a new group project. the jankest of decks. Have you ever built a deck where you're like, oh yeah, this is the best. This is the best deck ever. And then you play it and you go, this is hot pile of garbage.
Mm-hmm.
What is this?
Oh, yeah, so many times.
Again, chasing the jank.
My Thyrexian
yeah,
one
I'm
was
trying to
that.
think about-
Yeah.
Yeah. But at least that one had flavor, you know? It seems like,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't actually see the deck, but it seems like
It
you were
tried.
going for like a full flavor win and you got there. I've definitely like, mine are not flavor wins. I'm like, this is going to do this thing. I've even had situations where I'm like, I don't understand how the cards interact. I think they do one thing and I do it. Someone's like, that's not how that works. I'm like, all right, well, that's the whole deck. Just throw this one in the garbage.
Amazing. Yeah, I like that. It's like doing weird stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's jank if it does something weird but doesn't do anything else. That's
Yeah.
the best one. I like that.
Yeah.
Like I've got a Trax of the Grand Unifier. That's one of my decks, and it's just it's full of horrible cards. Like it's got all 3 Elish Norns in there. It's got Shieldred in there. It's got Vorinclex in there. Jingataxis in there. It's horrible. Like it's got a lot of big creatures that do horrendous things. So if I play them, they get removed straight away. Then it's got little things I can put out that like don't do a lot, or don't turn into a case of you don't really know one really does anything. Like there's the combo Marlene of the Morn Song and Oppression Agent. Like that's a key mono black combo. If you get rid of Oppression Agent and go for Mindlock Orb, it's just fun because you can't draw cards and you can't search libraries. You just lose 3 life. That's it. That's all it does. Like you just put those there. It's like no one can draw cards, no one can search the libraries, but they lose 3 life. And if you've got anything in your hand, then good luck. That's all you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like,
Limited resources.
Yeah. It takes me so long to find the
Sorry,
cards
I
in the
agree.
deck anyway. So like by the time I get those cards out, like everyone's like, yeah, no. I'm like, oh.
That, or by the time that I feel like you put that out, probably most of the cards people are holding on to, they're like, well, I don't really want, this isn't really like going to be a card that's going to benefit me right now. So if they're stuck with just that and they have a hand where they're just been holding on because they're like, I can't get rid of it, but I also don't want to play it. Oh, love it. Hate it. Love it.
But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, especially with Marilyn of the Morn Song, my personal policy is like, if the first person who tutors doesn't tutor for removal, I'm so fucking annoyed. You have to kill it. You have to kill it immediately.
If you don't help all of us right now, you're the threat. I don't even care about that right now.
Yeah.
I like weird jank like that. Like I class that as jank because it's like it's doing a thing that it shouldn't do for that color. Like last episode, we talked a little bit about like what we did like and dislike. And Dan, you hate blue and white police people and people that run those colors, and it's like control is just horrible. And I completely agree. But then I build decks like my Shieldred deck, which is just mono black control. It's like mono black should not be a control deck, but it now is because you just make it messy. And then
You're just saying no in a different language. And you're like, no, that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. It's just funny.
Yeah, I definitely do stuff like that too. Like, I do have one of my in my Jund Dragon deck. I have this card called Price of Progress. It's a 3-mana enchantment. It says if you tap a land when it's not your turn, that land is destroyed. So it's basically like, and all my cards are sorceries. So I'm like, oh, you have to pay fair. Play in your own turn. Nobody fuck around. But also, that's like kind of a fucked up thing to do, but it's funny for me. So I get it.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, especially if you don't have enough lands in your deck.
This is a very good point and a very good segue. I see right there. To slightly move away, not from jank decks, because kind of depending on what lands you have in your deck, it could be jank or not. But the big question in the community and in the EDH commander community is how many lands is not enough lands, or how many lands is enough lands. I'm going to pose that question directly to Hailey.
Well, I thought long and hard about this. And I think it depends. I think it definitely depends on what commander you have. So if you have a commander that costs 3, then you only need 3 lands, and that's it.
Case closed.
Rest my case.
I see.
I yield my time to. Okay, no. I was actually, most of my research was like, how many lands do I actually have in my decks now? Because I run them, and that's always the biggest thing. Or I have the wrong lands, and I have my ratios off based on like my color pairing, and I'm like, why do I have 70,000 mountains when I have like my ratio is way more like swamps? So I'm like, so I did some soul searching, though I've settled like I usually start now if I'm making a deck. Just because I have to do it in the front or else I'll forget about it, I go, there are 35 lands in this deck. Somehow, there's a minimum of 35 lands in this deck. And if I go under, it better be like the best card in the world that I'm pulling from it. Previously, did I have a deck that I ran many times with like 28 lands? Yeah, but we don't have to talk about it. On a podcast where we talk about things, you know?
Which deck was that?
It was my Gisa and Geralt deck. So it started at 28, and then I kind of slowly was like, well, okay, I'll add like 2 more lands. And then I'd run it and have like an okay game. And then I'd have a string of games that were like, couldn't do anything. So I was like, all right, another land. But I've brought that up to 30. After many months, I've brought that up to 35. And I think that's where I started my policy of like, if I'm building a deck, theoretical or practical, 35.
So much growth.
If I don't, and if I do, well, no, I have to trick myself. If I don't do it immediately and stake that real estate claim in my deck, it would never happen. I'd be like, I'm running this on 20 lands and I didn't put a soul ring in. Let's go.
Well, that's it. See, now that's a very good point there. You mentioned soul ring. That's something when I first started playing, I was like, oh, there are mana rocks, there are artifacts that tap for mana. Well, I don't need that many lands because if I get those out, they make mana for me anyway.
Yeah.
That's fine. So I built a deck and it was like, you know, I think it had 28 lands in, all basics. And then it had like Soul Ring, Thought Vessel, Mind Stone, Command Sphere, Command whatever, all the stuff, Basalt Monolith, because that's great. And all that crap. And it was like a 20 odd artifact thing. It's like mostly mana rocks. So I was like, oh, easy. Then I played it, it's like, I have no mana to cast anything.
Of my mana rocks.
It's like, but then I got like loads of my mana rocks out, and I was like, great, okay, sweet. I've got like tons of mana here. I've got like 12 I can use. Like, amazing. Okay, what's this card? 4 black. Fuck, they're all colorless.
Yeah. You get like 1 from an arcane segment where you're like, great.
I can't. No, it's no. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard.
It's definitely a game of numbers.
What do you guys? What are your theories on like when you're making a new deck? I mean, I have openly said I have to trick myself to put lands in. How do you guys navigate putting lands into your deck? And when it comes to cutting a card, how do you stop yourself from being like, get this basic land out of here? Boring.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think because I just like to be clear, I have been a large proponent of Hailey putting more lands in her deck every time we play. So like I'm definitely the add more lands to your deck person. I don't think about lands until like the very end because I want to see like a general idea of the curve before I decide how many I'm going to put in there. But like when I say decide how many, it's like it's going to be like between 36 and 40 always. Like, and that's what I do. In addition to all my mana rocks and my ram spells and my mana dorks. Yeah, I don't know. I save it for last because I have too much experience, I think.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I first started playing, like getting new cards and being like, fuck this swamp, I'm putting in this 7 mana demon.
Yeah.
And then like slowly my curve is like going like this. And then I can't cast any of my spells, and then having to be like, fuck, I need to take all these cards back out, put lands back in. Yeah, and I also just hate being mana screwed so much. It's like the worst feeling. So I try to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah. What about you, Danny?
So, looking at the decks I have, I now average between 34 and 38. I try and aim for 38 as a decent number. Like if I'm cutting down because of, for whatever strange reason, I'll go down to 34. But I found recently, like when I started building decks, depending on the commander's kind of mana cost and like how many colors the deck's going to be, I do find most of my decks are either like monocolored or like 2-color decks a lot of the time. So if it's a 2-color deck, I tend to like, the first thing I'll do is like throw in 12 of each basic as a start. So like, there's 24 basics in there. Let's start adding all the fun stuff. And then as I'm coming down and like I'm seeing like the number of cards getting to like, I've got about 70 cards in the deck at this point. I'm like, okay, let's start looking at like non-basics and what non-basics I want to put in there that match the color of the commander, and like what extra abilities do they do that will work for this deck at that point, and start building the non-basic land mana base up with stuff that makes sense. Like if I'm running mono black, then you've got like Bajuka Blog and Bajuka Bog even, and shit like that, you know, in there. So it still taps for the black that I need, but it still does something else on top. You know, that's the way I kind of do it. And then if I've got a deck and I'm like, okay, I need to upgrade it and add stuff, do I cut lands? Well, if it's at 38, then I'm happy to cut down to 35. Otherwise, it's like, okay, like looking at the balance, do I have like, how many creatures do I have in there? Have I got like 36 creatures? Okay, well, I'll swap in different creatures. If I'm cutting a card to put another card in, I'll try and do a like for like swap of what the card is. So if it's an artifact, I'll try and cut an artifact for an artifact, creature for a creature, and do it that way. Because half the time it's like I'll have a really cool artifact I want to put in there. It's like, well, the artifacts I've got I kind of like, they're good, they do cool things. It's like, but yeah, try and keep it like for like, so at least then, you know, everything balances from when I started. Unless it's a shit janky deck, and then I'll just, well, fuck it, just delete half.
You're in.
Just go rat colonies, all rat colonies. Fuck it.
I think that's the hard thing too. Like artifacts are probably hard to cut too, because like it can be 50-50. If you're cutting an artifact, you might be cutting like a mana generation. So you're like, I should have just cut a land then if I'm gonna cut this. Like, so always cut lands is the moral of the story.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, the only thing I've ever cut lands for is other lands. Like I do the opposite of Danny. I put all basics in my deck, so I'll start by throwing in like 38 basics, and then I'll start removing basics for non-basics. I just find that easier to work with, I think, because there are like too many non-basics in my opinion. Not like that's bad, but like it's too many to consider.
Yeah.
A lot of them are fucking expensive. So like when I'm building my deck, it's a price tag, and then I go through the mana base, and then the price just goes like up and up and up. I'm like, okay. So
you don't start with all dual lands and then start cutting from your dual.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When I said 35 lands, I meant 35 dual lands.
Dual lands, shock lands, fetch lands.
Yeah.
Start with those and then work your way down.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
expensive.
I do kind of similar. Like I'll do all basic lands, but I do an even ratio of like what my colors are, and then I kind of like scale depending on then the colors that get put in for every other card type. And then I'm like, oh, I don't need 13 plains. I only have the smallest slice of white in here. Like, all right, get out of here. But then I have to immediately, in the moment, put more of the color that I need again, because I'm like, wow, I have room for 10 more cards. How'd that happen?
Well, here's a question for you then. So, and this might be just me asking for advice as well. So I run a Traxxas, Grand Unifier is one of mine, which is a 4-color deck, and therefore I need 4 different types of mana to fill that deck. Now, like, how would you kind of base your ratio of those 4? Like, if you were going to fill it with basics, those 4 basics for that deck.
I think for me, it's really going to depend on like what colors you're leaning heavily on for everything else. So I think it's really like the whole of the deck is going to then, for me at least, inform the ratio for what color lands I need. Because I mean, if you are playing the deck, but you're playing it like, okay, this is at least 50% of this is black, 25% of this is this, you know, like I'm not going to then waste the time on having like, well, I need 10 planes when you're barely playing any white colors, you know. So for me, it would really depend on the overall cut of the pie.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's totally reasonable. One other thing I consider doing that too is like the color requirements for the things in your curve also. Like for example, like if in Atraxa all of your ramp is green, I would have more green sources so that you can have them more consistently and earlier, so that you can cast the green ramp spells if you have them. That happens to me in some of my 3-color decks, even if they're not as green as the mana base would suggest. Then I can like cast my Cultivate, you know, because like if I'm playing Jund and I have like 2 swamps and a mountain and I can't cast Kodama's Reach, I'm fucked. So I look at those things too, and especially with the 4-color deck, I feel like so many of your lands have to tap for more than one color, which is fucking annoying.
Yeah.
But I mean, with a deck like Atraxa, maybe this is too specific, but like Atraxa can be a slow deck because if you cast Atraxa, you're really fucking shit up. So like you can play a lot of tap lands. Some decks don't want to play tap lands because you want to be on curve every turn, but you can probably get away with a lot of tap lands too, which is more flexible. You can also play in those situations. I play a lot of the cards that like enable multicolor stuff, like Chromatic Lantern lets your lands tap for shit, Prismatic Vista or Prismatic Omen lets your lands tap for other stuff. I would play cards like that to like, so that it's not the pressure of getting all 4 colors is not like only on your mana base. You can like spread it out a little bit.
See, that's good advice. I'll tell you now what I did when I first built this deck. So I looked at all my spells and I was like, okay, what costs the most of one color? So if it was 2 and 4 white, for instance, I would make sure I had 6 white in the deck. If the biggest card was say 4 and 3 green, but there was no other cards that needed more than 3 green to do it, I would put 5 green in just to be safe. That's what I did when I started. But then it turns out there's a thing like you can cast more than one spell per turn, so you might need more. So that's how it started off, jank.
That's awesome.
Since then, it has got better. You know,
pen to paper, that sounds. You're like, that makes sense when I say it to myself, like in my head, and then you play it and you're like, no. Like, this is why I'm not a scientist. Damn it. The theoretical did not translate.
Yeah. I cannot always blame being mana screwed on how badly I've shuffled my deck.
Well, I think that's a conversation for another podcast, because that's another subset of
the worst part of the game.
What the hell is Hailey doing? Not shuffling.
So many ways to shuffle. That's an
I think
episode
that's
on its own. Yeah. Add that to the list of topics.
Yeah.
How do you shuffle your deck?
Definitely.
Terribly.
Yeah, I mean, that is another reason why I run so many mana sources, because even if I shuffle bad, I'll get some of them.
Yeah. I need to go in and like look at like again like Llanowar elves and stuff, you know, and stuff that's like it's a creature but it taps for mana. I need more of that across the board, I feel. You know?
Yeah, I looked at that when I was looking at my lands. I feel like you guys will like this. I'm not saying this is right because I'm not a scientist here, but I counted up my lands, I counted up my mana rocks, my ramp spells, and my ramp creatures in all my decks. And if you add together my lands with the mana dorks and the mana rocks and the ramp spells, between like all of my real decks, I have between 40 and 57 cards per deck that are dedicated to making mana in some way.
That's why you always kill us turn 3.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. I guess it correlates. I don't know. I guess I'll have to try it.
See, that just makes me think I need to build a deck that's got 60 basic lands in and just see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, if your commander's Azusa, Lost but Seeking, you probably win.
Ooh. It's true.
Yeah, that's what my mono green lands deck has 40 basic lands in it, and then 14 more cards to go get the lands. So it's like more than half the deck puts lands on the battlefield.
Yeah. And then you play Armageddon.
Yeah.
If I were a monster, I definitely would do that.
You know what? I have cards that are salty to almost that level, but I don't actually own a copy of Armageddon yet.
Not really.
2024. Year of making dreams come true. And nightmares.
Yeah. God, Armageddon's the worst.
It is.
That sounds like my favorite card.
It's the worst part is like sometimes it's like the right thing to do. Like the most advantageous.
Yeah, it's like when you're 2 hours into a Commander game, then you play Armageddon.
Go again. Carded straight to jail.
Yeah, I think the ideal situation is you go to a local game store, all strangers. You sit down, you say, "I'm not here to make friends," and then 2 hours later, you prove it. Play Armageddon.
Exactly. I'm not here to make friends, but you gotta sit with me for 4 more hours.
Yeah, you still have to deal with me.
And everyone builds everything back up, and it's like, okay, we're gonna do it now.
Yeah.
Desolation Angel kicked. Boom. No one has lands.
Oh, the best feeling.
Yeah, that can be kind of janky too. Hopefully you're not playing Armageddon for the jank, but
Yeah.
somebody does.
That's a psychopath.
Anyone who plays Desolation Angel is playing jank, because the moment you play that, it destroys your lands.
Yeah.
Unless you kick in and destroys everyone's. So it's like, is it worth hating yourself or being hated by everyone?
So funny.
Do both.
Yeah, in those situations, usually like if someone does that to me, my next question is like, "Are you gonna kill me soon?"
Yeah.
Because if you're not, I might be annoyed. If you are, cool, great play, kill me, and let's play again.
Did you have a step 2, or was this step 1 to the finish line? Like that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, this happens when I play my brother a lot. He has a Kali of the Vast deck that like poops out dragons and demons and angels. And so if he gets Kali on the battlefield and protects her in some way, he'll Armageddon everyone so that he can just play shit for free and kill everyone. But usually that's like a 2-3 turn clock. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'll sit here and let you beat the shit out of me for a couple turns. But like sometimes it's not. Yeah. It's not the move.
I need to know who thought like that was going to be a great play mechanic for Magic the Gathering. They're like, okay, here's a new thing. We're going to introduce destroy the lands that let you play anything, that let you play the game.
Although if you've got all those mana rocks out,
that's true. See, this is a big brain moment.
Yeah, that's what culling ritual is for. I mean, they did also for a while they were printing cards that destroyed like specific lands. Like I think Choke destroys all islands or some shit. Like there's a card called Wildfire maybe or something that destroys all plains. It's like pretty messed up.
Yeah.
To be fair, we need both of those.
Asymmetrical land board wipes is brutal, yeah.
That's taking your dislike for a color to the next level.
Yeah.
Always gonna play it.
Yeah.
You're playing control?
Commander,
Okay, I need this deck.
Yeah. Right. You know, competitive, sure. Sideboard it in. But like in Commander, like you throw down a choke on somebody, you're fucked up.
Please talk to someone.
I know, right?
So you play that in your BDSM tribal deck. Choke.
Yeah, with Earthbind.
Yeah.
I think the takeaway is like anything can be jank now. Anything can be jank if you apply it hard enough.
Yeah, if you apply it hard enough, if you play it in I was gonna say the right way, but in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The so wrong it's right way.
Yeah. I have a win con in this deck, but I know I can never reach it because I didn't do anything to add to it. Just go for it. It's like putting Revel in Riches in a deck like I have before, in a deck that doesn't make tokens.
Killing the game.
One day you'll do it.
One day, yeah.
If I believe hard enough.
Maybe one day someone will play a deck that like gives people tokens. There we go. Revel in Riches. Yep. Boom. Help me win.
Universes Beyond, the Robin Hood deck. He just gives everyone, here you go. Treasures for all.
Hey, you never know. That could.
That's true.
That could happen. It might not be a Universe Beyond, but it might be a secret lair.
Jolene the Plunder Queen is pretty close. I'm
Ooh.
pretty sure she gives people treasures for attacking.
Yeah.
So
That's true. So just open up on Craigslist and say, "Hey, who's playing this deck? I'll play you. Here's my round."
we need to put together a pod.
Oh, ooh, here's an interesting deck idea. Okay, the win con is Revel in Riches. None of your cards make tokens, but you basically build a deck to steal everyone else's stuff. So you steal their token generators for you to use, so you can make the tokens. That's a big play right there.
All right, tell me when you make that deck, and I will.
On the right board, yeah.
Tell me when you make that deck, and I'll never play Prosper again against you.
Fair.
Ever.
Yeah, that would be pretty smooth.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It'd be pretty jank.
Yeah.
It'd be good.
Nice. Now I really want to make more janky decks now.
Yeah.
I want to make a janky deck where I just throw lands away. That's my homework assignment.
Hell yeah, dude.
I think
Honestly,
that's my next move.
if you need some ideas.
I think that's if there ever was a deck that spoke to who I was as a player, it would have to be that. So I have to make it.
Mhm.
That would be my spiritual deck. This is me as a deck.
What you should do is you should make a deck that has like 5 lands total in it,
Done.
but you fill it with tutors, so that you can mulligan down to a deck that has 1 land, mulligan down to a hand that has 1 land in it. Play a tutor to fetch your other lands.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
That's what you should do.
Yeah, they're actually, I don't know if there are enough of them to do it with a commander deck, but they have those like modal dual face cards now that are like lands on the back and spells on the front.
Yeah.
So like there are some competitive decks that are oops all spells, like a Goblin Charbelcher deck. It has literally no cards that are lands on the front. They're all lands on the back. So like if you look at the deck list, it has 0 lands in it. So maybe that's
All right, I gotta go. I gotta go make this deck.
There we go. In a future episode on the channel, you will see these decks. It's our project moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah, competition of the jank.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Land Jank 2024. That's the plan.
Yeah,
I like it.
easy, done.
Yeah.
I've already done it.
I'll just go through all my decks now and just cut everything.
Yeah. Put the old list back together.
Yeah, we're getting the band back together. Who's in it? Not Lance.
Not lands.
I thought you said Lance, and I was like, what happened to Ensign? But NSYNC is a good segue, actually, to our cocktail of the episode. I don't know how that is a segue, but
It is now.
it is now.
I drank all of mine,
I
so I
still
think it's
have.
Yes,
Well, this
that's
isn't
gone.
quite that.
yeah.
But Hailey, please, as for those watching this episode who hasn't watched the last one, Hailey, our resident mixologist and bartender of the show, not in
Yeah,
real
so-
life, but of the show.
If only. Yeah, this cocktail is inspired by Toxrill the Corrosive, which Danny actually has a deck that he plays. So it is. I cannot preface enough that this should be enjoyed responsibly. It has 5 ounces of vodka, 0.5 ounces of vodka, 0.5 ounces of gin, 0.5 ounces of white rum, 0.5 ounces of tequila. If you weren't smashed already, it has an ounce of Midori, 3/4 of an ounce lime juice, 1/4 of an ounce simple syrup, and you top with your favorite lemon lime soda. It'll eat away at your liver, much like Toxrill. It's delicious. Have one, and then forget about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you could turn it into Jello shots, and then you got your little slime counters. See? Big brain
Wait,
thinking there.
no. Oh my god. Alright, if I ever play Toxrill in real life, you better have Jello shot slime counters or else I'm leaving.
It has to be done.
Yeah.
Again, enjoy responsibly.
Yes. And for those that do wish to make it, it is here on screen. Wait, that way. Ta-da. We can hold our hands there. It's on screen for the moment. Screenshot, print it, get it. There you go. Yes, that is our cocktail of the episode. I did not quite make that because I didn't have all the ingredients, so that's why mine looks like that. I got close. I will not describe on the episode what I made because
Legally, you should not drink it.
yes, but I nearly finished it, and it's good. But with that, we will call it adieu, or adieu, or however you pronounce that non-English word, for this episode. But yes, we will call it there for today, and we will see you all in the next episode. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, the amazing channel sponsor that is Voidborn, creators of absolutely beautiful artwork on some amazing tokens, proxies, playmats, t-shirts, and more coming. Their season 4 drop comes in a week or so, on the 16th of Feb, which is probably less than a week. I don't know what day it is. In a week. Check it out and go buy things. They're amazing. But yes, that's it from us. Do you guys have any parting words before we go get drunk?
If you believe in yourself, you don't need lands.
Nice. Dan, do you have anything you wish to say in response?
Oh no, I don't think you can hear us. Perfect.
My headphones died, but they
As
they die, they stay connected for like a minute. So I just like everybody cut out, and I'm like, sometimes they come back if I just like wait a second. Didn't work.
Just say that you agree with my statement.
I fully agree. Whatever it was, always.
Yes. But yeah, with that, we will say goodbye. We'll catch you all next time. Be good, drink, play games, be merry. See you later.